Welcome to Adventures in Bonsai. My name is Jerry Levitt and I'm going to be your host of this series that'll help explain to you the simple methods that we can use nowadays to grow bonsai and make it fun and easy. Many years ago, bonsai was started over thousands of years ago in China, and there's been a traditional method that's been in use for all this time, in which they use graded soils, basically starting with gravel and then a heavier soil, sometimes mixed with sand or dried rotting material. People have different combinations of items that they like to use in their soils to grow bonsai, and that's the way they've been doing it for thousands of years. It works well, but it's not easy for the new person who wants to get into this hobby. Back in around the late 1980s, Brian Batchelder discovered a new technique for growing bonsai because he had moved to Florida and was having trouble because the trees he had were just not doing so well. So he started using something called sphagnum moss, which is the same stuff that peat moss is made of. Peat moss is just finely ground sphagnum moss. But sphagnum moss actually comes as a long, stringy material that's great for growth of new plants. It's used by a lot of people to start seedlings and to start new cuttings. And he discovered that by using sphagnum moss, he could go and grow his bonsais and they would do very well. Now, I had seen his videotapes of his television shows back in Philadelphia, and I started using this process up north, and it did just fantastic. I was really pleased with it. And then by circumstance, I happened to move to Florida, which is where I am now, and I continue to use his method. I use it exclusively. I use no soil in my plants at all, and it makes for a very nice way to deal with bonsai. I'll just give you an example here. Let's see. Here's a little ponytail palm. If I were to do this with a plant made of soil, all the soil would have fallen out. But because this is sphagnum moss, it holds together very well. And when I want to repot this, if this gets too many roots like it's getting down here, all I do is take a knife like this, a ginsu knife, which is great by the way. I just cut off the bottom, take some sphagnum moss, throw it in the pot, put it back on, and it's repotted. It makes it so easy. So today I'm going to show you how to make a bonsai from scratch. The first thing we need to do is to look at the sphagnum moss. This is a bale of sphagnum moss. You can buy it this way, but you get it at a center for, plants, a greenhouse, something like that. They sell hobby bags. Sometimes you can get them at Home Depot or Lowe's, places like that. And there's lots smaller and more expensive. Because I use a lot of it, I order these. And basically, all this stuff is this dry, stringy material, sphagnum moss that grows on bogs, usually up north in Canada, Connecticut, Wisconsin. And this is a great material. It's dry when you get it, but when you wet it, it absorbs the water and holds it very well. And it's also very easy to work with. So what we do is, we come here and we take our hose and we start to wet this down. And we wet it very thoroughly. So it's actually swimming in the water. And then you can take it and just mush it around a little, just to help it absorb the water. Give it a minute and it's ready. Now the trick with this new method is that when we use the sphagnum moss, that's all we use. Don't add soil, don't add rocks, don't add anything else. You just use the sphagnum moss. I want to show you how we take a plant. This is a plant I bought at a local nursery. It still has the tag on it. This is a very popular plant for bonsai. It's a juniper. This is Juniper parsoni, or the Parsons juniper. And this is a nice plant. I chose this particularly because people are used to seeing this as a bonsai. It's got an oriental look about it. But in this series, you'll see that you can use any woody plant to grow bonsai, and even tropical plants. The problem was before is that tropical plants grow fast and they have a long growing season. And in the traditional method, they like to grow these plants very slowly with very little fertilizer. It takes a long time. What Brian Batchelder found out was that by growing plants fast, but just pruning them properly, you can have a tree that looks a lot older quicker than the traditional method. So now I'm going to show you what you do to make a bonsai and how easy it is. First thing you do is you take this here out of the container. Now we're going to go and shake out the dirt. Just let it go. And get as much out as you can. You can use your hands and don't be afraid of damaging the roots, because we're going to cut a lot of these off. And the other good thing is that when you put them in sphagnum moss is a very acidic material, and it's kind of medicinal for plants, and they just love being in it. So whatever you do to them, they'll recover really nicely. Now the next thing I'll do is I'll clean this off with a hose. I'll try and get all the stuff out of here. Now, if you can't work outdoors, it's nice to do this at a friend's house in their sink. But, you know, don't do it in your own house in your sink. Not a good idea. Luckily down here I have the facilities to work out of doors, and it works out very nicely. Now, you can't get it all out, all the little things in here. You'll see little pieces of bark and stuff laying around. But you try and get out as much as you can. And you can take your time and do a little bit better than I am. I'm kind of going through this a little bit faster because of the time constraints. Basically, you get something that looks like this. Now, this is a lot of roots, okay? And we don't need all those roots on here. We're going to make this root ball a lot smaller. We're going to just go like this. And don't be afraid to cut the roots. They'll grow again. You get rid of that, take out some of the dirt from here, and that's pretty good. That's pretty good size. Okay, now I brought two pots out here. These are pots that I made myself. I used to go and take classes at the local high school in pottery. Actually, I wasn't taking a class, I was making pots. I'd make 10 at a time or so. I'd whip them up and throw them together, and they're great. These are maybe 6 or 7 years old. They hold really well. Let me see which one is better for this plant here. This would be interesting. That is interesting, isn't it? But I don't know if it's big enough to really hold the roots. It may be just a little. That's not bad. Versus this one. Let's see. You know, I think I kind of like this one. I just kind of like the way the whole thing looks. So we're going to go with this one here. Okay, now the other thing is it's nice to have good drainage. When I made these pots, I made sure I had big holes in the bottom. Because with the sphagnum moss, you just want to water these things. All the excess water will fall out and go through the bottom and give you good drainage. So here we go. Now, this is the very difficult part. This is the part that takes a lot of practice. You have to reach in, grab this, do that. Think you can handle that? Okay, that's about as tough as it gets here. You need something in the bottom. I maybe have a little too much here because I see how much I got in the roots. You want to take some out, and the next trick is you want to go and you want to take this sphagnum moss and you want to try and intertwine it between the roots as much as you can. Some root systems are more branchy and you have more room to stick this stuff in. They're like little crabs, and they have little pincers you can stick it in, and it holds the sphagnum moss itself. But you just want to kind of get it all like that. Now I want to figure out how I want this plant to look. Well, because I got this ear sticking up here, it might be nice if the plant goes this way to balance it off. Now I'm going to take it and I'm just going to push this in. Don't be afraid to push. You got to use your strength here. Use your fingers. Just go here and push this stuff in. Just about as hard as you can. And once you get it in there,